Please be seated. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite Mr. Chris Tobin, representative of the Darug people, to offer the traditional welcome to country. Mr. Tobin.
Thank you. Warame Nalawa. Welcome to the lands of the Wallamedigal. I belong to one of the local Aboriginal families of the Darug people, the traditional custodians over this part of the country. I wish to thank the University for their acknowledgement of us and for the invitation to welcome you all here today. That acknowledgement is important for our people and much appreciated, particularly by our elders. Education is highly valued in our culture as well. Knowledge meant survival, and our elders are traditionally accorded great respect for their accumulated wisdom and experience. My family descend from Yarramundi, a respected elder and cleverman of the Burrabrongal during the earlier years of colonisation. He saw that our survival in this new world could best be secured if we could learn more about it. As such, he enrolled his daughter Maria into the Native Institution, a school set up in 1815 by Governor Macquarie himself, offering formal education to Aboriginal children. Maria studied there for several years and used her newfound skills to lobby and ultimately secure some land for herself and her family out along the Richmond Road. Other Aboriginal families soon joined them and became known as the Blackstown, where present-day Blacktown gets its name from. We are very proud of her, as I'm sure your families are of you here today, and with good reason. For your progress progresses us all. Your advancement is our advancement. Now, that was perhaps better understood in traditional times when clan groups were smaller and people abided by strict sharing laws. It meant that the food that you brought in from your day's activities were distributed throughout the rest of the camp. Your efforts literally nourished the whole community, and you in turn were looked after by them. Yes, we can live quite beautifully when we get clever about it. Our Aboriginal ancestors certainly did in many respects, and I use them as a model and would offer them to yourselves as a model or a benchmark on how good to expect our lives. You see, when Captain Cook arrived here a little south at Botany Bay over 200 years ago, he described the people he encountered there as one of the happiest people he had ever met in the world. They had nothing, he wrote, but the tools they carried. They made shelters from the bark of trees without cutting them down and harvested food from the earth without tilling it. In traditional times, everyone was accorded rights to the country or clan area where he or she was born into. So there was no homelessness and no rich and poor either. Everyone had the same amount of gear, pretty much what you could carry. There was no armies or jails or even police. We have no history of slavery or empire building, no kings. People cooperated to collect the resources which were needed, and then they were shared out according to strict Aboriginal law. Our lands were maintained in their natural state. Rivers were clean and unpolluted, with people drinking out of them as they have done here for the past 20,000 years. Now remember, this is not an ideal, this is normal life. And there's no reason why we should expect less for ourselves and our children than what our ancestors enjoyed. So I would say to you all, expect great things from your lives and do great things. And together we can work to get this country back to the healthy, happy place that looks after everybody. We can do that. This is normal for us. We can all do our bit. I'll do mine now and get off here and let you good people graduate. All right. Congratulations to all of you and all the best in our collective futures. Thank you. Welcome to country.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to introduce the Chancellor of Macquarie University, the Honourable Michael Egan. Mr. Egan.
Well, graduands, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and I see also we have a few babes in arms with us this afternoon, and that's great. There's one thing certain about a small baby or even a little toddler at a graduation ceremony. At some stage they are sure to make a noise. Now, we have a very firm rule here: when a baby starts to wail, you are not to take it outside. You are to stay where you are because nobody will be worried by the sound of a baby. Certainly in my case, I was in Parliament for 25 years, so I'm used to a lot worse than the cries of a baby. And in any event, we've discovered through experience that if a baby cries through a graduation ceremony, it's back within 25 years to take out their first PhD. So we have a lot of freshly minted PhDs with us today. I suspect that they've all cried to a graduation ceremony at some time in their life. So graduands, please sit back and enjoy the ceremony. You need to relax if you're going to enjoy it. You should enjoy it. It's a very important day in your lives and in the lives of your families. Some of you look quite nervous and apprehensive. There is no need to. Nothing can go wrong. The worst thing that can happen is that this can fall off up on the stage. If it does, we pick it up and stick it back on your head. Or if you do fall over, we have our occasional speaker, in this case Dr. Megan Clark, the head of the CSIRO, and as well as giving the occasional address, her job is to pick you up if you fall over. So please just relax and enjoy the occasion. Well, it's my very great privilege as Chancellor of Macquarie University to preside at today's ceremony. First, I welcome all of our graduands, and I hope this will be a very happy and a memorable occasion for all of you. You deserve to take pride, great pride, in your graduation. Completing a degree is never easy. You need an intelligent and inquiring mind. You need determination and perseverance, and you need to make many sacrifices. So welcome and congratulations to each and every one of you. Today I also want to welcome, and especially welcome, those of you who are sitting behind our graduands as their invited guests. Because if you think about it for a moment or two, you've all obviously done very well too. The very fact that you're here, the fact that you have been invited by one of our graduands to share one of the great days of their lives is proof positive that you've been very important in their lives and in the successes that we celebrate today. So mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, cousins, sons and daughters, grandmothers and grandfathers, friends, husbands and wives, partners, boyfriends, girlfriends, lovers or whatever you are, congratulations and thank you for celebrating this great occasion with us. And I don't want you to think either that observing today's graduation is the end of your role, because I have another important service for you to perform for our newest graduates, as they will soon become. I want you to make sure that the degrees they receive today are never ever put in a bottom drawer, but are always proudly displayed in a position of prominence. In other words, if our graduands are too shy or self-effacing to proclaim their own success, you make sure you do it for them. Now, the ceremony that we're about to participate in is one of the world's oldest social rituals. For centuries, graduates have been donning robes just like the ones our graduands are wearing today, and participating in ceremonies just like this one. Indeed, there are some 50 universities in the world which can trace their history back more than 500 years. Now, I hope it won't come as a surprise to you to learn that Macquarie University is not one of them. We're relatively young, only 49 years of age. But in those 49 years, we've certainly come a long way. We now have more than 145,000 Macquarie graduates living in more than 140 countries. Macquarie is a very modern and outward-looking university. We're regarded as one of Australia's leading research universities and are currently extending our research as we are our course offerings and facilities. We're always trying to engage with the world around us. We've forged strong alliances with the community and with industry and are keen to establish more. On your way here today, you may have seen our new Macquarie University Hospital. Actually, it's not quite that new anymore. It's about 3 years old. and it's used by the students and academics in our School of Advanced Medicine. We are the only university in Australia whose medical school, in our case a postgraduate medical school, has its own private hospital. You may also have seen our new library, which is just over a year old, and it really, I think, is the envy of every university in the land. You may also have seen our new Advanced Hearing Hub, which is a world-leading institute dedicated to advances in hearing, speech and language science. So we're looking forward and we're on the move. We want Macquarie always to be a leader in teaching and learning and a leader in the accumulation of knowledge and understanding. In other words, an ideal community of scholars. And graduands, in just a few minutes, it will be my very great honour to confer your degrees upon you and welcome you as lifelong members of that community of scholars we proudly call Macquarie University. Thank you.
Chancellor, I call on Mr Max Dobell, who is graduating today with a Doctor of Philosophy, to speak on behalf of the graduating group. Mr Dobell.
Good afternoon, Chancellor, members of the University, fellow graduates and guests. It is indeed a great honour and privilege to be asked to give the graduate address on behalf of my fellow science graduands today. You may not know it, but everyone in this room, from those sitting in front of me to those seated behind me, all have one thing in common. We all might come from different nationalities and backgrounds, come from different departments within the university, each with our own different ideas, different personalities, and different values. Yet despite these differences, there is still one commonality that joins us all, that joins this unemployment of graduates, if you will. And that common element is journey. Now, before you start to sing Don't Stop Believing, although on a day like today, that song is very relevant, I'm talking about the journeys we have all taken to be sitting here today, and in particular, the journeys I have taken. A wise Chinese philosopher once said, "A journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step." Now, some of you would agree that my journey is not your traditional journey. Unlike most of you, my tertiary education began in 2004, almost 10 years ago today, and I'm quite sure the Macquarie University is quite pleased to see me leaving today. So in 2004, I started my undergraduate Bachelor of Arts in Resource and Environmental Management. And like many journeys, I didn't know how long my journey would be. While I was ignorant to where this journey would lead, I had done perhaps the most important step of any journey, the first step. All journeys through life begin with that initial step, the initial impulsion to progress forward. Between 2004 and 2006, my undergrad journey was taking shape. By the end of 2006, I felt my journey was not complete and decided to continue walking down the road and see where it might take me. So I chose to veer off and take a different path. I decided I would do an honours degree in physical geography. So it's 2007, and unlike the start of my journey, I had some idea of where I wanted to go. But while I was taking my first steps into a new chapter, I was unsure as to where my journey would take me. Throughout a journey, you are given many different paths and often come across many crossroads. You can see glimpses of each future, and whichever path you decide to take will ultimately determine the journey's final outcome. No matter the path, there were still many rivers to cross as my journey took me to new places. It had now come to 2008, a time in which many of you still hadn't even started your tertiary education journey, while I had already clocked 4 years on the odometer. 2008 was when I began my PhD degree in environmental science and was the midway point of my journey. New challenges presented themselves and new opportunities rose as I began to move through the ranks of higher degree research. In deciding to take the blue pill and follow Alice down the rabbit hole, I had taken a new direction and was uncertain of what the future would hold, but unlike previous reflections, I knew my final destination. I just needed to make sure that the paths I chose from then onwards would lead me in that direction. While my PhD journey took over 5 years to complete, I stand here before you a stronger person for taking the scenic route. While many people assumed I was intelligent for taking such a journey, my response was always, a PhD is not about being smart. The way I see it, PhD stands for perseverance, hard work, and dedication. All these attributes are those that define all of life's journeys. The ability to travel through life with persistence and courage at whatever is thrown at you is merely part of the journey. While it may be scary at times not knowing which route to take, the paths you choose and the decisions you make do influence your journey's final destination. So I go back to my original quote that a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. But contrary to what that wise philosopher said, even if you're 1 centimetre off in any step of that journey, its final destination could end up somewhere completely different. In summary, I'm going to share with you a quote from the immortal words of Dr. Seuss. Congratulations, today is your day. You're off to great places, you're off and away. You have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself in any direction you choose. You're on your own, and you know what you know, but remember, you are the person who'll decide where to go. Thank you.
Well done, Max, and congratulations on your PhD. There was some very good advice in that address. I think it is wise always to take the scenic route. So I wish you well for the rest of your journey, and I hope that you'll maintain a very close association with Macquarie University. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we now come to the key part of today's ceremony, the reason we're here, and that's the conferring of degrees. It's the part of the ceremony that actually makes me nervous, because I understand that if I get it wrong and confer a degree on someone who's not entitled to get one, there's nothing I can do to take it back. So for that reason, we ask our academic registrar to give me an absolutely ironclad guarantee that all of you have never ever missed a class. You've always submitted your assignments on time, and then I can be satisfied that I'm not about to make a mistake. So, academic registrar, can you give me that assurance, please?
Chancellor, I certify that all the candidates being presented here today and those who are absent have satisfied the requirements of Academic Senate for the degrees and diplomas they are to be awarded. Would all candidates for admission to degrees please stand?
They don't seem real sure, do they? Well, graduands, in the name of the Council of Macquarie University and by my authority as Chancellor, I admit each of you present and those who are absent to the degrees or diplomas for which you have qualified. Graduates, congratulations.
Please be seated. Chancellor, the graduates at this ceremony are from the Faculty of Science. The faculty teaches courses and conducts research about people and our physical environment. It's the home to a number of internationally recognised research centres. It has close links with industry and is building firm future partnerships, especially with companies located close to Macquarie Park. The faculty includes research and study areas in biological sciences, chemistry, biomolecular sciences, chiropractic, computing, earth and planetary sciences, environment and geography, mathematics, physics, astronomy, engineering and statistics. Chancellor, I now call on Professor Clive Baldock, Executive Dean of the Faculty of Science, to present the graduates. Professor Baldock.
Chancellor, I present to you the graduates and diplomats from the Faculty of Science whom you have admitted to degrees or awarded diplomas. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. Dr. Sinead Pamela Blaber for a thesis entitled Investigation of the Properties of Adipose-Derived Cells and Secretions. Dr. Abigail Laura Cabrelli for a thesis entitled The Impacts of Climate Change on Australian Reptiles. Dr. Max Paul Dubel for a thesis entitled Green Occupants for Green Buildings. Dr. Philip Edward Ireland for a thesis entitled Climate Change Adaptation and Development Aid, Emerging Challenges and Opportunities. Dr. Victoria Therese Kearney for a thesis entitled Joining the Policy Dots Towards Narratives of Sustainability in Public Policy and Organisational Change in the Management of Healthy Communities. Dr. Supriya Mariam Matthew for a thesis entitled Decision-Making Methods for Local Government Adaptation to Future Climate Extremes, evaluated in Kochi, India, and Ku-ring-gai, Australia. Dr. Sabine Sylvia Newton for a thesis entitled Impacts of Climate Change on Plant-Insect Interactions. Dr. James Robert O'Hanlon for a thesis entitled Floral Mimicry in the Orchid Mantis Hymenopus coronatus. Dr. Ekaterina Rubanova for a thesis entitled Fluid Processes in the Deep Mantle, Geochemical Studies of Diamonds and Related Materials. Dr. Amara Sajjad for a thesis entitled Diversity of Class 1 Integrons in an Aquatic Ecosystem. Dr. Shannon Michelle Smith for a thesis entitled Spatial and Temporal Patterns of Kin and Population Genetic Structure of Eusocial Beetle, Austroplatypus incompeteratus. I present the graduate admitted to the degree of Master of Philosophy, Thorn Lindradet, for a thesis entitled Adiabatic Transition from the Cluster State to the Surface Code. I present the graduate admitted to the degree of Master of Arts, Kate Claire Macquarie, who has been awarded the Vice-Chancellor's Commendation for Academic Excellence. I present the graduate admitted to the degree of Master of Biotechnology, Sheila Subramani. I present the graduate admitted to the degree of Master of Environmental Education, Michelle Claire Rose. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of Environmental Management, Danielle Elise Haynes. Anne-Marie Poirier. I present the graduate admitted to the degree of Master of Environmental Planning, Nat Mankay Harak. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of Environmental Science, Haida Musa Al-Adil. Kunal Johri. Shoujuan Liao. Ru Yuan Xuan. I present the graduate admitted to the degree of Master of Environmental Studies, Gina Ann Parker, who has been awarded the Vice-Chancellor's Commendation for Academic Excellence. I present the graduate admitted to the degree of Master of Marine Science and Management, Richard Kitely. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of Museum Studies, Bridget Maureen Banfield. Craig Robert Middleton. Steve Mutarius. Madeline India, Small. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of Science. Morgan Levent Evans. Bjorn Strasberger. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of Sustainable Development, Chunachi Bernice Cruz Velasco. Leonardo Huertas Prieto. I present the graduate admitted to the degree of Master of Wildlife Management, Megan Linnell Topham. I present the diplomat awarded the postgraduate diploma in Environmental Studies, Gina Marcela Quintero Lopez. I present the diplomat awarded the postgraduate diploma in Museum Studies, Stephanie Claire Kemp. I present the diplomat awarded the postgraduate diploma of Museum Studies, Leanne Elizabeth Wicks. I present the graduate admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Engineering with first class honours with the Bachelor of Science, Jeffrey Jones. I present the graduate admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Engineering with first class honours, Audrey Biswas. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Engineering with honours, Dean Mitchell Bailey. Abhishek Kar. Daniel John Marr. I present graduates admitted to the honours degree of Bachelor of Science with first class honours, Thomas Alexander Davis. William Fairbrother. Esmond Julian May. Edward Moe. Larissa Chompf. Grant Nicholas Webster. Jessica Verity Wilkes. Rory Williams. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Science with the Bachelor of Arts. Christopher Graham Nelson. Alec Lawrence Southam. I present the graduate admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Arts, Christiana Leslie Moore. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Biodiversity and Conservation, Bradley John Dean. Erin Nicola Greatbatch. Tegan Hartenhaler. Grace So-hee Kim. Simone Melissa Larkum. Molly Eliza Peters. Stacey Lynn Wilson. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Engineering, Odai Mutasem Abu Sada. Mohammed Adnan Asghar. Matus Wielkowski. Sasha Marek. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Environment. Claire Elizabeth Agnew. Belinda Baker. Therese Rain Elliott. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Health. Hayley Chow. Debbie Victoria Cole. Rebecca Davis. Marguerite Elias. Jeffrey James Lawrence. Victoria Nguyen. Jenna Ruth Richardson. Caitlin Elizabeth Tucker. Alicia Louise White. Melissa Williams. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Marine Science. Nicholas Gregory Benjamin. Nicholas Edward Brunning. Jesse Luscombe. Elise Salo. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Medical Sciences. Simone Bajani. Masi Gul. Nicole Kalash. Chitra Ravi. Charles Edwin Lionel Walker. Anthony Wan. Charini Rionika Wersingh. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Planning. Vincent Joseph Alberti. Sifa KC. David Nicholas Lusick. Lilith Ambatusumian. Stephanie Bayot. Emily Caroline Ben. Cleo Lucy Blewett. Grace Boglev. Patrick Butcher. Dean William Charisis. Max Edward Dixon. Marko Djordjevic. Daniel Peter Egan. Caitlin Heather Fitzhenry. Stefan Giesler. Jodie Alexandra Hervey. Sharon Michelle Kay. Emma Isabel Lang. Ashley Leake. Peter Luskos. Jacqueline Luff. Aida Machuca. Tracy Wing Sum Mac. Kieran Philip Mathewson. Joshua Munro. Kristen Regoli. Ahmed Rahul Simanjuntak. Matthew St. Clair. Julian Charles Stewart. Francisca Anastasia Varas. Jen Gao. Chancellor, also amongst the awards being conferred this afternoon is the posthumous award of Bachelor of Science to Brendan James Searle. Brendan Searle was a highly gifted science student with an enthusiastic passion for biology. Brendan sadly passed away in August 2012. He had been studying for a Bachelor of Science at Macquarie since 1994. Brendan typically excelled in biology and was awarded the Molly Thompson Biology Award during his last year here at Macquarie. The conferring of a posthumous degree recognises the struggles that Brendan faced and his ability to find much solace in education. Brendan's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Searle, are here today to receive Brendan's posthumous degree. Mr. and Mrs. Searle. Chancellor, that completes this afternoon's presentation of the graduates and diplomats from the Faculty of Science.
that wasn't too bad. That beautiful voice, ladies and gentlemen, belongs to Angela Brewer. Would you like to hear Angela sing just a little bit more? Okay, it's very simple. You enrol in another degree, and when you come back to next graduation, Angela will be singing at that too, I promise you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think Angela deserves another great round of applause. As do our fabulous musicians. On the organ, Dr. James Forsyth over there. And on the Chinese flute, Mr. Chai Chang Ning. And sitting between them are some of our alumni volunteers who come along to almost every graduation to make sure that things go smoothly, and we have a lot of graduations every year, so I think they deserve a round of applause too. Well, graduates and ladies and gentlemen, it is our pleasure at today's ceremony to honour, in accordance with the resolution of the University Council, Dr. Megan Clark for admission to the degree of Doctor of Science, honoris causa of Macquarie University. I now invite Professor Bruce Doughton, Vice-Chancellor of Macquarie University, to read the citation. Professor Doughton.
I invite Dr. Megan Clark to stand for the citation. Chancellor, it is a distinct pleasure to present Dr. Megan Clark, one of Australia's foremost scientific leaders. As Chief Executive of Australia's National Research Agency, the CSIRO, for almost 5 years now, Dr. Megan Clark has led one of the largest and most diverse research organisations in the world. With 6,600 staff across more than 50 sites in Australia, as well as research stations in France and Mexico. Under Dr. Clark's leadership, the CSIRO continues to deliver important scientific advances to the people of Australia and the world beyond. In its history, the CSIRO has contributed to the development of a diverse array of discoveries, bringing to society polymer banknotes, Aerogard, and essential components of Wi-Fi technology, to name just but a few. After an early career as a mining geologist with the Western Mining Company, and before joining the CSIRO, Dr. Clark had an equally distinguished career as a senior executive with BHP Billiton, the world's largest mining company, and in the finance sector with venture capital funds in the United States and Australia. Despite her impressive professional and corporate career, Dr. Clark has always been, at heart, a scientist, motivated, as in her own words, by a deeper mastery of science. Dr. Clark's career encapsulates many of the traits highly valued at Macquarie University: a thirst for discovery and knowledge, a passion for partnering with industry to ensure that scientific breakthroughs are quickly turned into societal benefit, and a commitment to serving the people of our communities near and far. Dr. Megan Clark's career of distinction in science, business, industry, and indeed as a leader bears witness to her quest, again in her own words, to make a difference to things that matter to this nation and to humanity. Chancellor, it is with extraordinary pleasure that I present to you Dr. Megan Clark for the award of the degree Doctor of Science, honoris causa.
Well, graduates and ladies and gentlemen, I now invite Dr. Clark to present the occasional address. Please welcome Dr. Clark.
Chancellor, the Honourable Michael Egan, Vice-Chancellor, members of the University Council, faculty, graduates, family and friends, special guest, my husband is here tonight and our adopted family member, Katja, is also here to graduate today. Congratulations and well done to each and every one of you, because you've done it. You are the graduates of 2013, and thank you very much to Professor Doughton. I'm honoured and delighted to be here to celebrate your special day with your family and friends. You are the greatest and best equipped biologists, chemists, earth and planetary scientists, engineers, mathematicians, environmental scientists, geographers, and physicists that Macquarie University has ever produced. You really have done it. I'm sure you doubted yourself just a couple of times along the way. I saw some of the family and friends as I was coming in today, and I have to say that some of them look a little worse for wear. And please take care of them. I'm sure you've challenged their loyalty, and sometimes you might have even challenged their love, but I can assure you that there is one unbroken and very universal rule of graduating, that if you are surrounded by family and friends tonight, you will eat well. And I can judge by the noise in the crowd that perhaps O'Day and Grace will eat extremely well tonight, perhaps Francesca as well. I know what it takes to get through, and I am extremely proud of each and every one of you. But how will you take your place in the world? This is a world which is connected and intertwined beyond any of the benchmarks, any of the high water marks of your parents, of your teachers, of any generation before you. It is above the high water marks that your grandparents could not have even imagined. So if any of you are arranging drinks, taking selfies, tweeting with your colleagues while you are pretending to attend to my every word, go ahead, share your feelings with your networks, because this is your future. But let me just take a second from your phones to share a story that Ben Zander tells, and Ben is famous from the Boston Philharmonic. And he tells a story of a young girl walking along a beach with an adult in tow, and this was following a great storm. And along the beach, washed up, was just a myriad of crabs, all writhing and dancing in a dance of death. It was a sea of tragedy and devastation. Thousands upon thousands dying on this beach, and it was hopeless. And as they walked along, the girl bent down and picked up just one little crab and threw it back into the sea. And the adult bent down kindly and said, "Can't you see that it won't make the slightest bit of difference?" But the girl smiled up quite knowingly and said it made a huge difference to that crab. And so it is, and that is all it takes. If you choose, and you must choose, this will not happen if you don't make that fundamental choice. If you choose to make a difference, incredible things will happen in the world around you. As the scientists and the engineers, you are the problem solvers. I'm afraid we've left you with a few problems. You are the doers. You're the makers. You're also the thinkers. You will take care of this world, and you will think of other worlds, particularly the planetary scientists. But you are the first generation. It was interesting listening to the speech of the history of the Duraag community who managed to balance sustainability with their future livelihoods. And to think back upon that, because you are the first generation that must balance economic growth with human rights, with a sustainable future. No other generation before you has had to make that delicate balance. You will have to navigate through that. You are entering a world where for the first time, conflict will join poverty as the greatest threat to human rights. We are seeing that now as the evidence evolves from Syria of how conflict can fundamentally impact human rights. You're entering a world where sustainable economic growth is not a given. It is not a given. For previous generations, it has been an assumption. It's certainly not a given for the developed nations. You're entering a world, luckily, for this region, that the centre of gravity, if you like, of the world's GDP, the centre of economic activity, for the first time is moving to our region. It is moving from between the US and Europe. It's moved across over the top of the Middle East, and now that centre of gravity, if you plot it, is now squarely moving between India and China. It's moving into our region. You're also the first generation that needs to solve the challenge that before you have grandchildren, the world must produce more food than it has ever produced in human history. Before you have grandchildren sitting here graduating, more wheat than has ever been produced since the Egyptians, more fish from the sea than have ever been eaten till today. Think upon that. You're also the first generation that will see waste as an opportunity. It was a recent assessment of 186 countries that showed humanity is now using resources at a level never seen before, some 70 billion tonnes a year. You are the generation that will figure out how to turn that waste into the new resources. We're also using resources at a higher level per person than any other time in our history as a species, some 10 tonnes per person per year. We've had a lot of talk, we've had a lot of effort over the generations that have come before you, and I'm afraid we failed to reduce our footprint, either as individuals or as nations. I'm afraid you're surrounded by an awful lot of crabs. But we need you. The world has changed, and so has science, and the concept of scientist and engineer is not a dated concept. Now more than ever, we need your minds, we need your dedication, we need your passion to help solve some of the biggest questions that face this nation and will face humanity. And you are the most connected generation to enter your chosen field. You will find yourselves working in multidisciplinary teams. You'll be publishing papers with international collaborators. You'll be crunching huge data sets to find your results. And this is beyond anything that your supervisors and teachers have ever known or experienced. At CSIRO, we recently finished the Pawsey Centre supercomputer, one of the nation's third supercomputers in Perth. It's amazing to reflect on the amount of data that will be delivered to that computer from the Square Kilometre Array telescope, ultimately which will be in Western Australia. It will produce more data in its first week of operation that currently exists on the whole internet, in a week. Already 60 institutions from over 30 countries have booked time on the Pathfinder project, ASCAP project in Western Australia. That is what your future looks like. There are no boundaries to your collaboration. We're also moving from terabytes to exabytes now to zettabytes, and to put that in perspective, a zettabyte is equal to 125 million years of your favourite TV show. So what can I offer you? I've already said we've failed in what we're delivering the problems to you, but so what can I offer you? I want you to think about not just what you work on, but who you work with and how you work. As you reflect on your experience at Macquarie, I know that you will think about how you were treated, how your colleagues interacted with you, and that is how you will be remembered. So look around you at your colleagues and friends that you're graduating with. Think about the inspiring people that you have worked with here at Macquarie just to get to this point. And imagine that amplified for the rest of your working lives. You all have curiosity. As scientists and engineers, you would not have got to this point without the deep, childish curiosity that kind of got you here. And I can see a few parents nodding in the audience because they are remembering the near-death experiences of your siblings, that curiosity actually came forward when you were very little. But trust me, the urge to inquire, the urge to problem solve never goes away. It never goes away, and all I ask of you is never let it be crushed. Never let that curious kid ever be put down or pushed to the side. Use the new correct connections that you have to break the institutional and geographic boundaries and barriers to new discovery. Right now, over 4 billion people use mobile devices that are connected to the internet. An Australian invention that Macquarie University had such a key part in bringing to reality, and that was Wi-Fi. By 2020, there'll be 50 billion internet-connected things on Earth, which is around 6 devices for each one of us. And I'm sure some of you already have reached that number. The environmentalists among you who are graduating will for the first time have whole ecosystems with sensors, something that no other generation has had. Even now, with University of Tasmania, CSIRO is working with researchers there to sense the largest area ever sensed in the world, where freshwater meets the seawater meets aquaculture industry in the Tasmanian coast. Sensing every part of that environment right down to putting a sensor into the fish adjacent to its heart, just to check how healthy it is. So for the environmentalists, you will have tools and sensing that you have never had before. As you emerge today, you hold our collective future in your hands. Each of you can make a simple but gut-wrenching, soul-wrenching difference to our world if you make the choice to do so. And don't be daunted by the scale. I can remember myself working in South Africa and feeling incredibly daunted by what difference could I make to this emerging nation that was changing so fast. And I was talking about that today with one of your leaders at lunch, because it looked and felt overwhelming. But if you remember just to take it one crab at a time, it somehow doesn't feel quite so overwhelming. So when you are daunted by the scale of what you have to do, simply take it one crab at a time. Just break it down and you will make a difference. Look around at your friends again and remember they can be your lifelong colleagues. And you'll see amazing scientific discoveries over the next 5 years, but it's your social contacts. It's the people who you have coffee with, it's your friends, it's your family who you play sport with, it's your communities in which you operate, your streets, your neighbourhoods. That is what makes you human, and that is what makes you real. Science, above everything else, is an incredibly human pursuit, and respect and love and a sense of humour will be critical for you to create your impact on the world around you. So whatever your passion is, whatever you choose to follow on any given day, incredible things will happen in the world in which you live, in your jobs, in your private lives, for those of you who choose public contributions. Listen to that childish curiosity. It got you to this point. Trust it. Just take it one crab at a time and tackle the greatest challenges that face this nation and face humanity. And please respect and love and laugh with those around you. Finally, I would want to thank Macquarie University for my honorary degree. It is such an honour to be here and share this with you. And I'm very humbled because this award is partly because I have the privilege of leading a wonderful science organisation. And I'm a bit of a science nerd, and I couldn't think of a more perfect job, because I get to witness examples every single day of excellent science, but applied to some of the biggest questions that we face in this nation. I wish each and every one of you the very best in your chosen fields and urge you to simply stay human. Thank you very much.
Well, graduates, Dr. Clark is absolutely right. If you choose to make a difference, you will. If you choose to make a difference, you will. I think we've been very privileged today to have Dr. Clark as such an important part of our graduation ceremony. She's come all the way from Melbourne just to speak at your graduation, so she deserves a great round of applause. Well, graduates, this ceremony marks the end of one stage in your relationship with Macquarie University, but it's certainly not the end of your association with Macquarie. From today on, for the rest of your lives, you are part of the bigger Macquarie family, which is our alumni, and part of the network of Macquarie alumni, which now spans the globe. We'll keep in touch with you through our alumni program, which is focused on lifelong learning, lifelong support, and lifelong connections. Our commitment to you is to help you keep in touch and engaged with Macquarie throughout your life. And please, graduates, do make sure that you come back to Macquarie, either to undertake more study, to attend alumni events, or even, if you like, use our aquatic and fitness facilities. Well, graduates, the award of a university degree carries many opportunities and privileges, but like all privileges, it also carries responsibilities. Believe it or not, you, each and every one of you, can change the world. And you don't have to be a Nobel Prize winner to do it either, because almost everything you do in your homes, in your workplaces, and in your communities matters and can make a huge difference. The consequences of every effort, every action, large or small, can reverberate throughout society, through the decades, indeed the centuries. Even something as simple as a kind word or gesture can often be the spark that ignites a great life or a great career or a great achievement. So, as Chancellor of Macquarie University, I charge you to use what you have learned, not only for your own benefit, but also for the betterment of the community. I charge you to use the skills and knowledge that you have acquired with rigour and integrity, and to commit yourselves to a program of lifelong learning and inquiry. I charge you to recognise the worth and dignity of all people, particularly those who have not had the opportunities that you have enjoyed. I charge you to set high goals and to continue the hard work that has brought you so far. I charge you, wherever you go, to go with all your heart, and in all you do, I charge you to uphold the good name of Macquarie University. Now, graduates, I hope also that you'll always remember people who have helped you along the way. Many, of course, are here with you today. So, to acknowledge their contribution and thank them for it, I'm now going to ask you to do a couple of things for me. Would you now please stand, graduates? Now I'd like you to put your degrees on the chairs behind you, and I'd like you to turn around to face your families and friends. And now I invite you to give them a mighty round of applause. Come on, graduates. Okay, you can turn around now, but don't sit down, because here on the dais are representatives of our academic staff who have supported you throughout your journey, and I'm sure you'd like to thank them as well. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the official party will now leave the graduation hall through the centre aisle and will be followed by all of the graduates. I would invite you now to please stand, and please remain standing until the last of the graduates have processed out. And then I would invite all of you to join us in the marquee overlooking the lake for some light refreshments. Well, graduates, I wish you the very best for the future. And in the words of the old Irish blessing, may the road rise up to meet you. May the wind always be at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face and rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Thank you and good luck.